Rules. Welcome to CHI Borders webinar. This is our second time to run the webinar. My name is Ko Fujimoto. I am going to discuss and hopefully entertain you by talking about US residency rules that may help you to reduce your taxes and help you to plan your entry to the US or exit from the United States, or if you are a frequent traveler to the US, you can control the number of days or your tax status in the United States. Please feel free to ask me questions by pressing Q&A button. And, I'm sure you are familiar with how the Zoom works. I am going to record this webinar and post this to YouTube and our website. So if you have to go in between or, halfway through, it's okay. You can take a look at it later. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it. My English is second language of mine, so I will do my best to clearly speak and explain slowly, because most of the audience's first language is, based on the names of the people who registered, is Japanese. So I may insert some Japanese words to my presentation too. If you want to ask me questions in Japanese, that's okay. I will take the questions in Japanese. The purpose of this webinar is for you to understand most and for you to get the most out of from me. So we have a mixed audience today, English speakers and Japanese speakers. So I will use English, but please feel free to use Japanese, and I will occasionally insert Japanese language or Japanese words to the webinar to enhance your learning. So let's get started. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We have a reasonably good crowd today. Today's topic is maximize US, not maximize, obviously, minimize US worldwide taxes by knowing residency rules. The first part is a joke. So we want you to minimize your US taxes. This is our firm's mission and vision, and let me just read it quickly. our vision mission is to create the most rewarding working environment for all team members, advance globalization and world peace, and be the best international tax planning firm for cross-border professionals and their families. This vision and mission is extremely important to me, and this guides me to start my company and help me navigate my professional life into the future. So today, I am going to talk about US residency rules in general. And I am going to talk about substantial presence test. The other name is 183-day test. And here, you can control, if you are a non-resident now, you can control a current year number of days in the States to avoid being characterized as a US resident. If you become tax purposes, right, US resident, then your worldwide income would be subject to the US taxes. And if you are not the US tax resident, only US source income is subject to US taxes, and that's a major difference. The third topic that I'm going to talk about is there's one exception that you can utilize. Even if you meet 183-day rule, or even if you meet the substantial presence test, you can still be a non-resident if you are, if you meet the this exception. Now, some of you may already have a green card. So green card holder is US resident. It's equal. However, the first day you become a US resident because of your green card, there is some complexity. I'm going to explain that. And also that when you give up your green card, the timing of it is critical. And I am going to explain that in today's seminar so that you can gain from this webinar. And at the end, I am going to have a Q&A session. And if my presentation isn't that fun, then I would, maybe there will be less questions. So I am going to impose a few of my questions to the webinar, so that you would be also learn a little bit more. Okay. All right. So let's get started. There are only two rules for the US tax purposes to determine if you are US resident or not. And these two are, the first one is 183-day test. The other one is a green card test. There are only two. And both of them are very straightforward. I am not the licensed tax accountant in Japan, but Japanese way of, or Japanese tax authorities ways to determine the residency in Japan is way more complicated, way more complex. But US rule is, I think, is simpler. I'm a US CPA, also an attorney, and I'll be a student from this September in Northwestern University's tax LLM, and we'll be studying tax law, US tax law, a little bit more, actually a year and a half, hopefully, with about 45 students in Chicago downtown. That will be my part-time, and I'll be working, obviously. I need to work to earn the very expensive tuition to pay for the school. So anything that I earn from my company would go to US educational institution. Well, that's a joke. But let's get to these two rules. I think my webinar should be done, including Q&A, by for 1 hour. So by 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be all done. And if you want a slide of the seminar, I'm happy to send it to you. So, email me. I will send you a slide. But like I said at the beginning, I will post the recording of this webinar to the website and also YouTube channel, CHI Border, which I created yesterday. So you will not miss it. Okay, 183-day rule or substantial presence test. You need 3 numbers to decide if you are a US resident. The number of stay in the US, how many days were you in the United States? Current year, last year, and 2 years ago. But you don't add those 3 straight. You need to divide last year's number by 3, and you also need to divide 2 years ago's number of days by 6, and then add these 3. So why do you think the US government want you to reduce the impact of 2 years ago or last year, right? By using this formula? I think this is my guess, but this is how the IRS or US government wants to measure your connection, degree of connection to the US for the last 3 years. And weighing, in Japanese, I think it's called kaju heikin, weighted average, not weighted average, weighted. I think you get the concept. But this is how the US government wants to measure how close you are to the US. So the result is, if the total number of days under this formula, if the number of days is same as 183 or more, so it's 183 or more, 183日以上. If 183 days equal or over, then you are resident, but there is another condition that you need to meet. You are present in the US for at least 31 days this year, current year. So you meet 183-day rule, but you're not in the US for, let's say, 2024, 31 days. So let's say you are only 3 weeks, 21 days in 2024. You are not a resident for the 2024. I hope you understand the concept. Let's get to the real example here. So this person, current year, he or she is in the US 120 days. Last year, he was in the US for 120 days, so it's divided by 3. That's 40, I think. And 2 years ago, he was in the US for 120 days and divided by 6, that's 20. So if you add these total, if you add these 3, that's 180. And 180 is obviously is less than 183 days. Therefore, even if he is in the US over 31 days in current year, he's not going to be a resident for current year. So the point is, in this slide is, I mean, you already know last year and 2 years ago's number of days. And this doesn't include, by the way, this doesn't include your transit stay, okay? This number, if you're in the middle of current year, you can control. So you know these 2 numbers, and you can control by current year number of days and make sure that you are under 183 days. Thus, you avoid, being taxed by the US government for your worldwide income, especially if you have income in foreign countries. You don't want to be characterized as a US resident. Okay, so that's the first part of 183-day rule. And, this current year number of days is where you have a planning. Planning, you can do planning here. I don't want to use a word manipulate, but plan and adjust the number of days in a current year. Okay. Now, next one, I am going to talk about the exception. Exception works for, well, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I meet 183-day rule this year. What can I do? I don't want to be characterized as US resident. Help me out. Help me out. Is there an exception? Yes, it is. So this is the exception. It's called tax home exception. In order to use this exception, you must meet three conditions. Number one is you are present in the US for the current year, this year, fewer than 183 days. So 182 days or lower. That's number one condition. Number two condition is your tax home is in a foreign country. What is a tax home? This gets a little complex, right? This gets a little complex. regular and principal place of, I think, your business. One more time, regular and principal place of business. It's called tax home. So home under what? Where is your home under the tax rule? I think this concept is not just for international tax purposes, but let's say you have two houses, in two different states, and one of them is your tax home, and the other one is not your principal place of residence. So the concept is here, you need to persuade, or you need to provide, if you're asked, you need to provide evidence to the taxing authority that, yeah, my tax home is in England, or my tax home is in Japan. You need to be able to provide evidence. And the third condition that you must meet is you have a closer connection to such foreign country than to the United States. It's similar to tax home concept, but I think it's different. The closer connection, you may have heard the word nexus. Nexus. It's a degree of closeness. And to prove that you have a closer connection to your home country than to the US, you need to provide evidence again. Where do you own home? Where is your job? Where do your family's members live? Which countries do you go to your religious organization or church or shrine or temple or whatever? Social clubs and so forth. So the I think, I'm sure you don't fit this example, but it's an interesting example. Is that if you are a fisherman fishing tuna, and you go out and fish tuna for the pretty much 9 months of the year, or some of you may have read the Moby Dick, the whaling, right? Whaling. I think back then people go out, and it's actually more than a year. I think 1.5 or 2 years. I think based on the novel that I read, they go out and they don't come back to Massachusetts or the East Coast of the US for a wedding trip. But the closer connection wise, I think, the home is in Massachusetts and in the US, and all the pretty much everything happens in the United States. So I think this is a great example of where do you have a connection, closer connection. Anyway, I get a little sidetracked, but if you meet these three conditions, then you can utilize this tax home exception even if you meet 183 days, but you can claim yourself to be a U.S. non-resident. Okay. I think one caution is when you apply for in which the year you apply for a green card, you cannot use this tax home exception. One more time. In which or when you apply for a green card that year, you cannot utilize this tax home exception. Okay. So that's the end of my explanation of substantial presence test. Let's get to green card. So the green card, I used to have a green card. I became a U.S. citizen almost 20 years ago. So I don't have a U.S. Green card. I think I have one that with a hole, voided a green card. But I'm sure many of you have a U.S. green card, so which is a great thing. Congratulations. And it's getting harder and harder to obtain a green card. I had the green card through H-1B, student visa, practical training, H-1B, and green card. But nowadays, passing or getting a H-1B is 5 times more difficult than it used to be. But anyway, again, I sidetracked, apologize. But green card. A green card holder, alien is treated as a United States resident if that individual is a lawful permanent resident of the United States at any time during the calendar year. So this tells you that if you are a green card holder, you are U.S. resident no matter where you live. One more time, if you hold a green card, you are a U.S. resident, subject to if you are a U.S. resident, you're subject to the worldwide income tax by the U.S. Doesn't really matter where you live. So, which means unless you give up your green card when you go back to your home country, you remain as a U.S. resident, so you better give up your green card. It has nothing to do with the fact that your green card expired, 10 years, or that's an immigration rule. I am talking about the tax rule. For the tax rule, you must abandon, or you must give up, formally, officially give up your green card. Now, there are a lot of confusions here about when the first day as a U.S. resident starts for green card holder. A lot of people, including myself before, thought that as soon as I get a green card, I become a U.S. resident. Not really so. So 3 cases. First one is last year I got a green card, but I was in Japan. I received green card because of the lottery. Lucky you. But I was in Japan last year. So the rule is if you're not in the US, so this year, he was not in the US, the first day of the following year is the residency start date. So the January 1st of next year, he becomes US resident. Okay? US resident. So it doesn't really matter if he is still in Japan. It doesn't really matter. This day, first day, January 1st becomes his first day as a US resident. Now, second case is I got a green card current year and I came to the US current year. If that's the case, the first day of his presence, meaning it's not the date that he got a green card in Japan. It's the day he comes to the US is his first day of the US resident. It's a subtle difference, but for tax planning purposes, if you are, or if your friends are coming to the US, this timing becomes so critical because it's called the pre-immigration planning. Before you become a US resident, you can do a lot of things too, because once you become a US resident, you'll be scrutinized by the US government for your worldwide activities, right? And there are a lot of reporting requirements too. Though for those people who come to the US with the green card, the start date of your US residency is essential. Now, just like me, I was in the US with H-1B visa. So I meet 183-day test, right? I've been practically for 5 years or 4 years, I have been in the US, except with the exception of going back to Japan for vacation and so forth. But I meet 183-day rule, and then I get a green card. But it doesn't really matter here because I've been a US resident already. So obtaining green card does not change my US residency status. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to post it. Let's get to the last slide. So some of you here are planning to go back to Japan. Some of you may be US citizens. Some of you are green card holders. I don't think there are anyone, it's rare for any visa holder like H-1B or E1 or L1 visa participants are here. So let's assume you were going back to Japan. And in today's, it's, people go back to Japan permanently, go back to Japan to retire. A lot of reasons, right? A lot of reasons. The medical expenses, overall pricing, safety, comfortable, degree of, comfortableness. A lot of people want to go back to Japan forever. Sometimes it's a mixed nationality couple will go back, and the American husband maintain US citizenship, and Japanese wife gives up her green card. That's very common, and I'm sure there are some couple by the complete opposite case. So let's when does your green card holder days, or in other words, U.S. resident day would end based on the tax rule. And this is another essential planning element, because how you get taxed, it's so different before and after. And you don't want to get double taxed in foreign country by the US government and the Japanese government or foreign government. So the tax rule, US tax rule says, it's a little bit difficult English, but bear with me. Number one is you must formally declare that you intend to abandon your green card. You need to formally, officially declare that you want to give up your green card. How do you do that? You are sending in Form I-407 along with your original green card. So practically speaking, you don't send in your green card while you are in the United States, because you need the green card to stay in the United States. So, so this means that you go back to your home country, or you go to other country, like you go to other country, and then send in your green card with Form I-407. It's a very simple form that you can fill it out by yourself. You would send it back to USCIS office, and there is an address listed. I think it's in if I remember correctly, I think it's in Virginia. You don't really send in I-407 to different USCIS office. Please Google or look it up, I-407 in the web, and it should come up on the top. USCIS, and where to send, how, and you can download the form and so forth. So anyway, sending Form I-407 along with your green card. And if you happen to have the re-entry permit original, you do need to send that original together back to the USCIS. So literally, you're mailing the form back to US. Before, in the past, I think you were able to send it into the consulate, 大使館, and I think one time it became, the place become like a Korean 大使館 in Korea, US 大使館 in Korea. I just forgot the English name of 大使館. Shame on me. Anyway, so by sending I-407, you are making a legal statement, but that I am going to abandon the U.S. green card status. So when the point is, when is your last day? The tax regulation or tax rule says the date you send the document is effectively the last day as a green card holder. So it's not the receipt date, It's not the approval date. It's the send date. At least the regulation says the sending date is official date. I think in a legal world, there are interpretations that the receipt date or approval date would be also accepted as a formal date of abandoning your green card. But I think most of the time, 99% of the time, sooner the better to avoid double taxation. And you can safely use the date you send the document as your last day of being a US resident. So if that's the case, what's important? What's important for you? Proof of mailing is critical. So you want to send in the document by the method that you can prove to the US government that I send in I-407 on this day. Please take a look at this, right? And also, I think you want to keep track of how long it took to get to the USCIS. So you want to keep, you want to have ability to track your mail. So to safeguard, you need evidence that your declaration was sent and received. Often, this entails sending the document via registered or certified mail and keeping a copy of the receipt. You need to have a clear paper trail to prove that you officially abandoned your US residency, which means your worldwide tax day will end on the day you send in this I-407. One more time. Your US residency ends on the day when you send in I-407 with your green card. So you can, right? You can control when you want to send in. Do you want to send in on the day when you arrive Haneda Airport, or you want to wait until you get your Juminhyo and you get, the I forgot the name of the identification card. My card, or I forgot. I'm sorry. The you can wait 3 months. You can wait. You can actually do not send in that I-407 until the end of that year. That means you are a resident for the entire year from the viewpoint of IRS, if that's your choice. So the typically, you want to send in I-407 quickly after you arrive Japan. Okay. I think this is pretty much I want to cover today. And I am going to quickly go through well, this is our advertisement and a nice picture. And the person is not obviously me. but just for your information. And we are in Chicago, downtown Chicago. And this is our phone number, and this is my email address. Okay. Do you have any questions? If so, please post your question. I can take English or Japanese questions. If you don't, I have 3 questions pre-prepared. So let me give these 3 prepared questions. And first one is, when is the best timing for me to send in I-407? In Japanese, I の407を提出するタイミングとして一番いい時期というのは、だいたい一般的にいつなんでしょうというご質問に関してですね。So, because US taxes, individual income tax is, it's not a flat tax rate. The tax rate goes up as your income goes up, right? Accelerated tax. I think lowest is, 10% and then goes up to 37, 34, I forgot, but it goes up. So in general, your tax would be more, tax situation would be better if you give up your green card earlier of that year. So let's compare January 31st versus November 30th. January 30th would be better, assuming if your income is kind of steady on a monthly basis. If your income is the same, January 31st, November 30th, then it doesn't matter. But generally people, receive income over the month. So sooner, the earlier of the year, you're better off. That's one advice that I can give you. Number 2 questions that I often receive is, when should I send W8 BEN? W8 の弁というのはいつ出すべきでしょうかっていうご質問をよく受けます。So W8 Ben, some people say, oh, you can send it in, while you're in the United States. That's not technically correct because W8 Ben is a form that you tell US withholding agent or your financial institutions that, hey, I become a US non-resident. Don't, any income that I earn from now on, I am not earning it as a US resident. So don't include this into 1099. Don't send me any more 1099. I don't like it. 1099 interest, 1099 dividend. So once you send in I-407, you typically send in W-8 Ben to U.S. financial institution, right? Because the form is to notify your banks and security firms and that, hey, I am no longer a U.S. resident, so treat me differently. Okay. All right, I have the last prepared question about the the exit tax and I-407. Okay, well, this is a tough question. What's the best way to reduce, if any, your exit tax by using I-407? Okay, so how do you work with your exit tax liability, if any, if there is some? And then I-407, there are few things that you must consider. Because exit tax you on the unrealized earnings of your capital gain. So you want to monitor how much unrealized gain that I have, because exit tax, this unrealized gain tax, is based on the asset you have on the day before you give up your green card. So you can control when you give up your green card, which means you can monitor, and you cannot change the unrealized gain, but you can pick and choose the when to get assessed on your exit tax. The other point is, so that if I defer I-407 as a when to give up your green card, the issue is, I think, when you move your assets before you go out, right? Because exit tax is based on per person, not per one couple. Okay, so the now this is a very complicated discussion, but in general, it's a very rough statement to make, but in general, it's better off to balance out your assets before you give up your green card. I think the last point maybe can be misunderstood. So if you have any questions about this, you got to have an individual session with me or with anyone who is comfortable. I have a meeting. If you come to my website, our website, there is a meeting scheduling box anywhere, everywhere. Maybe I have too many. But this one it's complicated, and I don't want you to misunderstand the concept. So please, the timing is important, right? I want you to understand timing is important for when you give up your green card. Okay, I think I have one question. Thank you very much. Let me see. So first, I will read it in Japanese. If you press the button Q&A, you can see this person's question. 20年以上営んできた個人事業がアメリカが拠点のため日本への、なるほど。永住帰国後もビジネスを持続しアメリカの CPA を雇い、もしくはエクスパット専門の CPA を見つけてタックスリターンをする予定です。日本での収入の有無にかかわらず、日本の国際タックス法にも従い、両国で、確定申告をする必要があるように理解しております。そのため、フォーリンタックスクレジットを申告することで、 二重払いに払う必要がないと聞きましたが、情報不足でよく理解しておりません。教えてください。はい。So in English, this person has a business. He's gonna leave. He's gonna keep his business in the U.S. And obviously, it's called permanent establishment under the U.S. tax law. Permanent establishment in Japanese is called 恒久的施設。恒久的施設。So U.S. Even if this person becomes a non-resident of the United States, U.S. Can still tax this person under I think, under the U.S. rules as well as U.S. Income tax convention with Japan. So his question is, can he eliminate the double taxation by foreign tax credit? The answer is maybe not. Maybe not. Answer is maybe not. Because,じゃあちょっと、let me just explain in Japanese first. まずですね、そのフォーリンタックスクレジットっていうのは日本にもアメリカにもございます。そして、きっとですね、日本の税務申告をされるときに、米国でかかる税金を相殺するっていうような形になっていくと思うんですよね。それで、もちろんその税率の違いがあるので、もし日本の税率の方が低い場合は、アメリカでこう余分に出ている税率っていうのは払わなきゃいけないということが一つと、もう一つは、きっとですね、どの州に置かれてるかということだと思うんですけども、ビジネスが。その、米国の州税の部分っていうのはですね、フォーリンタックスクレジットっていうのは、国税の部分だけしか使えないので、日本ではそれを、税額控除取れないと思うんですよね。だから、そういう意味でですね、完全に税金を二重払いっていうのを防ぐというのは、少し難しい部分というのがあるのではないかなというふうに、思います。この方の場合は、だから、ビジネスが、どんなビジネスなのかっていう、その、LLC なのか、C コープなのか S コープなのかとかっていうこともあるとは思うんですけれども、当然そのアメリカの方で税務申告をされる、ビジネスは申告されるということで、で、今度は日本の居住者になられるということは、日本の方では全世界の所得に課税されるということですので、そちらの方の課税っていうのが出てくると思います。もしですね、もう少し詳しくお知りになりたい場合は、また私の方にミーティングのですね、リクエストをしていただければ、アイロゴンでお話しさせていただきたいと思います。以上です。よろしいでしょうか。はい。ということで、これでですね、ちょっと急にも日本語になっておりますけれども、これで、今日のウェビナーを終了させていただきます。皆様どうもお忙しい中、ご参加ありがとうございました。Thank you very much for attending our second webinar. I'm planning to have one every 2 weeks and hoping to make it better and better every time that I do a webinar. So your feedback would be greatly appreciated. どうもありがとうございました。それじゃあ失礼いたします。